Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. And before I start, I just would like to ask you again to join my mailing list, follow me on Instagram. You have my website down below if you want to get in touch with me. But today, for the second time, I have a very special guest, Mark Yaxley, who joined me several months ago. And I decided to contact him again because of the current situation, especially on the market of precious metals. So let me introduce Mark again to those of you who didn't have a chance to watch our first interview. He's a director at Strategic Wealth Preservation, which is SWP, a global precious metals dealer and a secure storage provider. But what I really like about Mark, and I took it from his Twitter today, how come I miss it the first time, I don't know. He's a big fan of dogs, but not politicians. Welcome back, Mark.
Thank you, Anya. It's great to be back with you.
Thank you so much. So since we spoken last time, which was, I believe, 3 or 4 months ago, a lot has changed in the world and in the precious metals market. So let me ask you first of all, how the last few months have changed in the demand on gold and silver. Is it still going up? Is it more stabilized now? How is it right now?
Right, very good question to start. So we were coming off of the COVID crisis, in effect. So the precious metals industry benefited and saw a lot of volume from the COVID crisis. And that was just starting to kind of fizzle out and stabilize demand within the market. And then we had a series of kind of events that took place. You had inflation. The news on the inflation front is obviously very concerning for all investors. You know, rich, poor, everyone is affected by inflation. Then if you're a Canadian or even a North American, you had the Emergency Act in Canada, which Trudeau enacted during the uprising in Ottawa. And that triggered a lot of Canadians and even American clients who were concerned about the possibility of government or banks seizing assets. And then, of course, you had the conflict in the Ukraine, unfortunately, that began 5 weeks ago. So with those 3 events coming off the tail end of COVID, demand has surged again. And you've seen that reflected in the price of gold. It had a run where it nearly touched its all-time high. It's come down a little bit, but I can tell you that the physical demand is still very, very strong right now.
Okay, thank you for this. So because you mentioned those 2 events that actually I wanted to touch on later on, I will start from my end questions and go to my front questions. So now let's imagine the situation now that this conflict right now in Ukraine continues. In your experience with precious metals, watching this affecting the price, the demand of the metals, how this will go for gold and silver. This is the first scenario, if it continues. And if it doesn't, how this will affect as well. And I do understand, and I agree 100%, this is not just the conflict here, this is the inflation. So it's a combination of both. But let's say with this conflict, for example, how do you see this will continue?
It's a very good question. Traditionally, geopolitical conflict, the larger it being, the more impact it'll have on the price of gold. Obviously, there's a lot of safe haven buying happening right now in the marketplace due to the conflict, and has been for the last 5 weeks. So if it continues at the same scale that it is now, I would assume the price is going to continue in the 1900 to 2100 range. You might see some fluctuations day to day as we have, because people are trading off the headlines. You know, it's remarkable that there's one headline that there's the possibility of peace talks, and then the Russians bomb a children's hospital. So the market reacts to this news so quickly. So you will have intraday volatility, but I'd say 1900 to 2100 US dollars per ounce is probably a safe range that it'll trade in if it continues. When there is significant progress in the discussions between the Ukrainian and Russian government, and there is either a treaty signed or actual ceasefire that takes place, I would expect the price of gold and silver will drop on that news in the short term, because part of the market has priced in this conflict, and so long as it continues, that the pricing action will be there. But once it ends, I would expect some investors who are merely in this to make short-term gains will take out their profits and walk away from gold and silver, leaving the rest of us who are more long-term gold and silver investors with a lower price. But that being said, if the conflict then de-escalates, I think inflation will quickly take its place, because we haven't been able to address that. The market hasn't addressed it quite yet because they're still focused on other things right now. They're distracted by the conflict. And then the question becomes, will the Russians just pull all their troops back and go back to Moscow, or will there be more unrest in Central Europe? And what will the Americans do, and so on? So still a lot of waiting and seeing, I think, at this point.
Yes, so now in the case, and I would like to emphasize on what you said, because many of my followers are into precious metals, and even more so than in crypto, which I think you have to diversify. However, I just want to emphasize that if there is a drop in price, it's not going to stay for maybe even a long time or forever, because it's gonna go up again, just depending on the speed of it, really, because like you said, it's inflation there too. But jumping to the next topic here, and this is kind of selfish question because it's really my question, but I think many people will benefit from this question. So when I was looking at those refugees crossing the borders, right, running away, and as I've been told, the first group of those people, big part of it, were people who actually had funds, had money, who maybe had cars, or were able to, escape quickly, right? So had some financial funds, maybe Bitcoin, maybe gold with them. They had some gold, not gold, dollars in the suitcases that were, I think, confiscated, I don't know, at the borders. But what I'm going with this is this. More than ever now, and now I was thinking about you, is important to keep your precious metals in different locations, right? Like imagine this situation, something happened like this, and you guys provide the storage pretty much all around the world. So if someone has some gold, which you in Europe or in Grand Cayman or in where else you have it, Mark, in a few different locations, can you tell me now, let's go into this. We have Europeans, where would you recommend them to store? And then we have USA and Canada, and I also have Australian and New Zealand viewers. If we can go into 3 groups.
This one is a tough one because, we always say that you should keep some gold and silver at home, close to you in a worst case scenario. And obviously the Ukrainian people are experiencing a worst case scenario right now. And so having some gold and silver, hopefully not confiscated at the border. If it was, that's extremely unfortunate for them because it's their personal property, and I don't believe it should be confiscated. But if they were able to bring small amounts of gold and silver, or again, with gold, it's so small, the value is so concentrated, it doesn't have to be big to make a difference in your life. Obviously there was benefit for those who had that gold and silver at home and were able to bring it into another country with them personally. But beyond what they were able to carry or felt safe carrying with them, that raises the question of, should they be diversified? Should they have some assets that are not in this case, Ukraine, but it could be anywhere depending on where you live and in the situation that you live in. And that's why we recommend geo diversification as an overall portfolio strategy to our clients. So the question becomes, where are the best places to store it? Some people would say you want it outside of your jurisdiction, but you want it to be relatively close to you so that you can retrieve it, or at least go visit it if you want to, or do a self-audit, as we say. So for Americans and Canadians, often Grand Cayman, where we have our head office, is a really good choice because it's relatively close. It's like an hour and a half from Miami, 3 hours from Canada and New York City. But in the case of Europeans, I think either, Zurich is a traditional safe haven for precious metals. I mean, Switzerland, for the first time in many conflicts, has taken a less neutral position in this case, but still a safe haven and a major trading hub. So Zurich is an option. And then we have Liechtenstein, which is also an option for Europeans, which is a completely neutral country, and has some really interesting property rights there. So confiscation is not something that can take place as per their law. They don't have bail-in laws and confiscation laws like many countries do. for your Australian and New Zealand viewers, we have the vault in New Zealand that we work with, but I think Singapore is a close option and also a great hub for precious metal trading.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mark. So let me ask you here, for the small investor and bigger investor, is there a minimum deposit to enter this storage, a minimum amount required?
We do have minimums. They're not very high, I don't think. I mean, I understand, and we've always tried to be as open as possible to having everyone invest in precious metals. And, you know, I'm always encouraging young people. I wish I'd started when I was 18. It would have made an even more impactful difference in my life. Our minimums right now are 3 ounces of gold or 200 ounces of silver. So it's about $6,000 US, depending on the day, but it's still within reason. And the only reason we have those minimums, Anya, is to ensure that we can run a profitable business with the model that we use. Again, I think it's attainable for people to do so.
Yes, yes. Actually, I came across several videos lately about doing this, what you are providing with strategic wealth preservation, but doing this through Swiss banks. And this is totally different game, because the minimum to open an account with Swiss bank is something completely different, right? It's a different level. So you actually can store securely precious metals in Switzerland without having $500,000 or $1 million to, I think it's less than this, but to deposit in the bank. So I think I was thinking about you, actually. I was like, this is actually this is very good option here for gold and silver. Okay, so let me ask you now about, when you look at this year and the price of gold, how you think, how far this will go, gold and silver, how this will unfold number wise, I'm asking now.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of touched on it earlier. If and when the conflict does see some pause or some sort of progress in terms of peace talks, like we said, I would expect an immediate pullback. But to your point, I don't think we're looking at gold going to $1,500 US. I think that baseline has been established around 1,800 from the COVID experience. Now you have inflation, which is going to be a major problem for the markets for a while. With the interest rate hikes in the United States and by other central banks, you can expect that the stock markets are going to see a correction, possibly as large as 20%. If you have a 20% correction in the stock market, you're going to see gold and silver very likely increase in value. So I think if there is a pullback after the conflict, that's a great opportunity to be buying metal, because I think you'll then see a subsequent run up. What the high number for the year will be, it's always hard to say where it's going to be. Is it going to be a new record high for gold? Are we going to see $2,100 gold? Are we going to see $30 silver? It's possible, but I think it's better to talk in kind of average prices for the year. And I would say right now, where we are sitting around 1930, 1950 range, I would say the average is going to be between that and $2,000 for the year. That's kind of a conservative view. But again, that's the average price. You might see some peaks beyond that, and obviously some lows as well.
Thank you, Mark. Now, what do you think, and what's your opinion about Federal Bank, Fed, raising the interest rates gradually this year? Is this going to affect the gold price as well?
It will. It obviously, it has a roll-on effect in many aspects of the market. So we asked the same question, actually, Anya, to a senior analyst, and I'll email you this chart. Remind me if I forget. I'll email you this chart and you can share it maybe with your followers. It's very good. So we asked the same question to our senior analyst, Jeff Clark, and we said, Jeff, what happens when there's prolonged interest rate hike periods, when you go into a period of time where the federal government has no choice but to raise interest rates multiple times? And so he gave us a chart from 1971 until now, until 2022. And there's been 8 periods of time where interest rate hikes have gone up over over 1 year, 2 year periods. And of those 8 periods, out of the 8 times, 6 of 8 were either neutral or positive for gold. And I think the average increase was about 20-25% for the price of gold. So I will share that with you. It's good data, and
Thank
it's a
you.
question many people are asking right now. So you can share that with your followers as well.
Thank you so much. I appreciate this. And it's interesting what you're saying, because I also watch some Polish YouTubers in the financial topics. And this is exactly the percentage they are saying, like you just said, around
Good.
20%. So it's confirmation to me as well. So Mark, now if someone is interested in using the services of SWP, I mean, buy from you or store with you, what would you say? They can contact you. I leave the links down below, but as far as storage, is it an easy transaction, or how to go about it?
It is pretty, I mean, I would say it's pretty easy. We've tried to make it as easy as possible. Obviously, we're a business. We want people to sign up. So if you go to our website, swpcayman.com, you can open an account online. That's fairly straightforward. We do ask you to provide a proof of your passport or driver's license and your home address. We do obviously do due diligence on our clients. And once your account is approved, you can then order up to 100,000 US dollars and then pay for your order afterwards. You can actually place your order and then pay us, so you know the exact amount. And you will receive, if you choose storage, you will receive a storage contract as well, which you can execute and get back to us. So it's a matter of 1 or 2 days of opening the account and waiting for us to approve the account. But once that's done, you're good to go. And you can store in any of 10 locations worldwide with us, all using that same one account. So it's very simple once your account is approved.
So a little bit, we still have a few more minutes left. So a little bit in this field here as well. So 2 scenarios. One is someone has 401ks in United States, for example. I don't know if Canada has the same system, and they want to transfer this into precious metals. Do you help with this as well?
Absolutely, we do. So if you have a 401k, what you can do is, it's called a rollover. You can roll over your 401k into a self-directed IRA account. We work with 2 IRA administrators in the United States. It's listed on our website. There's a section called IRA. You can go there. You can read about the 2 administrators that we use. And basically, you have to open an account with the administrator, and they will help you roll over your 401k into that IRA account. And then you can purchase precious metals through that account with us and store it with SWP. So yes, the answer is you can do that. For Canadians, it's a slightly different system. It's called an RRSP or a TFSA, but it's a similar outcome. They can open an account with a broker in Canada called Questrade, and then they can purchase precious metals through SWP for storage.
Wonderful. And now physically, when someone has physical precious metals in their possession, so now how we go about it? We ship it to the address, or, I mean, ideally you can go there, right, and enjoy some vacation, but how we do this? We just ship it, right? And then we have to insure it on the amount of the value. How does it look practically?
So we found from experience, it's much easier for us to do all of that hard work for our clients. We have a team that is specialized in logistics for precious metals. So basically all we need from our clients is to know how much they have and where it is. Once we have that information, we provide them with a quote. If they accept the quote, then we prepare all the shipping documents, import, export documents, and we insure the metals fully from door to door. So there's no, if there were to be a loss, it's fully insured for the replacement value. And we basically take care of it from there. All they have to do is package up the material and drop it off. We use FedEx for a lot of smaller shipments and Loomis International for larger shipments. So again, all that information would be shared through our logistics team, but really we take all the hard work out for the client so that they don't have to stress about paperwork and customs and things like that.
Thank you so much, Mark. And I would really like to connect with you maybe in a few months from now, because this might be another reality again, who knows. And before I end this conversation with you also, I just want to ask you, for those who are watching, if someone is storing with you, for example, and they decide to sell some ounces of gold or silver, it's no problem at all. So this is also convenient, right?
It's actually one of the biggest advantages of storing with us is that we also make a market. So both when you're buying, if you have a storage account and you're buying to add to your account, or you're selling, those are things that you can do in real time with us. So you can call or email us and do it online, and you can buy and sell in your account, and we'll pay you within 48 hours. Generally it's 24 hours, but we say 48 just to give a little buffer. but we will pay you within 48 hours of you selling your precious metals to us. So you have a lot of liquidity there. And in terms of coming back in a few months, Anya, it'll be a pleasure. And I really I believe in a few months, we'll have a lot to talk about again, because this world is crazy. So there's never a shortage of reasons for us to connect.
Yes, I actually want to make my own prediction for gold this year, if we can.
Sure.
I have a very strong feeling that before we end this year, gold will reach at least 2,500.
You know, if that's the case, something has gone wrong or worse in the world. So I don't wish it upon anyone, but to your point, that's another reason to own gold in the first place, is you're protecting yourself against the worst case scenario. It is wealth insurance, in fact. So hopefully we don't see that, but for those of us who do own gold and silver, obviously there'll be a positive side to that story as well.
Yes, thank you so much, Mark. You're very busy. I appreciate your time today. And thank you everyone for watching. All the links to contact SWP you have down below. And until next time, thank you.
Thank you, Anya.